Region 8 News starts right now.
We continue to track several big stories tonight. Good evening, I'm Shelby Smithson. Amanda Hansen is off tonight. We now know a name in the officer-involved shooting that took place in Jackson County. But first, we saw some drizzle earlier today in parts of Region 8. Here's a live look right now at Interstate 40 in Forest City, thanks to RDOT. So Ryan, what can we expect over the next couple of days? Ryan, thank you. We now know the identity of the man shot this afternoon in an officer-involved shooting in Jackson County. That man is identified as Sejon Anthony Woods of Jackson County. Arkansas State Police says Jackson County deputies were called to Jackson County Road 76 east of Swifton. There, they made contact with Woods, who was armed with a handgun and reportedly fired the gun into the ground. Swifton Police, Tuckerman Police, and ASP also responded. When asked to drop his weapon, he reportedly pointed it at police. That's when a state trooper shot Woods. Woods was taken to the hospital where he is listed in serious condition. No officers were injured. That state trooper is now on administrative leave pending the outcome of the investigation. And the Missouri State Highway Patrol is assisting the Dunklin County Sheriff's Office after human remains were found yesterday off AB Highway. Sheriff Bob Holder tells us the remains were sent to a lab for identification. This investigation is still in its early stages. We'll update you once we learn more on this story. New at 10 tonight, a Memphis man was in court today in Jonesboro on a rape charge. King Henry McWilliams III was arrested after an investigation by Jonesboro police. The probable cause affidavit states that in late October and into November, McWilliams began having sexual conversations with the victim, which progressed into a physical assault. A judge set his bond at $100,000. A Wynn man has been arrested on a rape charge. This comes after an investigation into the claim that a sexual assault happened in 2017 of a 5-year-old. Brady Castle was arrested and taken to the Cross County Jail. His bond was set at $100,000, and he's not allowed to have contact with the victim's family, and all juveniles that are less than 18 years old that are not in his immediate family. In Jonesboro, a woman is accused of going to a bank and trying to withdraw money that was actually linked to several check forgeries. Back in November, police were called to the Regions Bank in the 3100 block of Southwest Drive about forged checks. Valencia Taylor was arrested after the investigation. The affidavit says bank officials showed documentation that showed Taylor making withdrawals totaling over $12,000. A woman faces a multitude of charges after a crash last year left 2 teenagers injured. The crash happened in November at 3rd and Main Streets in Norfolk. Carol Bovial was arrested today on suspicion of 2 counts of first-degree battery. In the crash last year, authorities got a call about a driver backing up, hitting some kids and causing injuries. The 2 teens required emergency medical care. After a blood test, Bovial tested positive for meth at the time of the incident. The 92nd General Assembly is in full swing. Lawmakers are working on bills that could affect all of our lives, including one to help kids stay safe while they're in school zones.
We see people using their cell phones every single day in the school zone.
It's something the Nettleton School District has tried to deter, posting no cell phone signs, having officers give warnings, but the problem persists. Superintendent James Donovan hopes a bill making its way through the legislature will put a stop to it. It's House Bill 1182, and its purpose is to make distracted driving in a school zone a primary offense, meaning an officer can stop or detain a driver solely for using your phone and driving.
To give us a little more teeth to the already existing process, and by making it a law, it'll make it easier for my officers. We'll try to, we'll continue to try to give warnings, but after a certain number of warnings, we need to be able to ticket folks because it's just too dangerous.
That bill was read in the House and has now been sent to the House Committee on Public Transportation. Still several steps before it can be made into a law. A state lawmaker is working to protect free speech on school campuses. Senator Kim Hammer says there are no specific cases that inspired the legislation, but it has been in the works for more than 2 years. Jesse Tenor has more on what this legislation would do.
In recent years, student activities have stirred up controversy across Arkansas. From an all-inclusive sex education seminar hosted by an LGBT student organization on the Arkansas Tech campus.
I just wanted to be a part of a group that supports the diversity and the inclusion of different sexualities.
To an article that was initially pulled by Harbor High School after the student newspaper staff wrote about the transfer of 5 football players.
With all due respect to the administration, I believe that their treatment of our constitutional rights is done in the crassest way possible.
A state senator is working on a bill to protect free speech like this on high school and college campuses. From a demonstration to an article.
Whether conservative or liberal, either one, it just affords them a greater amount of protection to be able to do that without retribution. Senator
Kim Hammer's legislation protects a laundry list of free speech. Ideas and opinions administrators may find immoral, offensive, racist, and more.
It's as comprehensive of a list as you can without including the whole Webster dictionary.
As a lawmaker, Hammer has a right to bring this to his colleagues in the legislature, and they have a right to speak for or against it.
That does make some people uncomfortable because one side may not want the other side to have leverage of using the law to champion their voice.
The bill should appear for its first vote in the Senate committee in the coming weeks. And the long-debated internet sales tax has its best chance of passing in Arkansas following a U.S. Supreme Court decision. That decision allows states to require sellers to collect and remit sales tax for online purchases in their state. Representative Dan Douglas filed the bill this session that would do just that. Douglas says he has received overwhelming support for cities and counties who all share a similar story.
We have people come in, they'll shop our products, they'll take pictures of it and literally order it online on their phones there to save the sales tax.
Douglas says the state would get about $35 to $40 million a year from the sales tax, while the return to the cities would vary depending on what sales tax they charge. He's heard some of his colleagues may file bills that put caps on what sales tax cities and counties can levy. With the swipe of the arm, thousands of employees across the world can open doors, log onto their computers, even buy snacks in vending machines. Some companies microchip their workers. Representative Stephen Meeks found there are no state laws to regulate implants in the U.S. He wants Arkansas to be the first. His bill would allow companies to offer microchips to employees, but not force them to use them. The company would also have to disclose how they plan to use data from the microchips.
And the idea here is to set the ground rules before the technology comes to our state to protect workers.
The legislation also requires the company to pay to remove the implant if an employee leaves. The employee could also decide to keep the microchip, but then bears the responsibility for it. More deer in Missouri have tested positive for chronic wasting disease, and now conservation officials are working to stop the spread. 103 cases of the disease have been recorded, including 3 cases in Oregon County. But MDC officials say they're catching the disease early. Chronic wasting disease is a deadly illness that also makes the deer's meat unsafe to eat, but the county with the most cases is St. Genevieve, just outside of Region 8.
Even though we did find 7 positive deer in St. Genevieve County this year, that number still, relatively speaking, statistically speaking, is very low when it comes to the percentage of deer that were found with the disease.
MDC is working with landowners and culling the deer in counties where new cases have been found. The meat that is not infected is either given to the landowner or donated to the Share the Harvest program.